Every single year, we see a huge shift in the list of contracts considered the worst in the league, and to start this season, we've already seen some significant changes, so I want to talk about it. If you guys like the content, smash the like and sub button, and let's get into this. Now, the list is going to vary drastically depending on the parameters you set. For example, if you're just going based on this season, which we're not, the list is completely different. You're going to have guys like Russell Westbrook right at the top. But when you consider the contracts as a whole, it's hard to have an expiring deal as one of the worst in the league. You also have some people scared to put actually good players on these lists. That's not going to be the case here. You can be a good player in the league and still be one of the worst contracts in the league. Coming in at 10, I think it's really between one of the Boston Celtics guards, so ultimately, I went with the bigger contract in Malcolm Brogdon. As we talked about in our last video, I like the Celtics going after Brogdon given their situation. That doesn't change the fact that his contract's ridiculous. He struggled to raise his volume and even stay on the court in Indiana. Now in Boston, he's back in a role that's probably best fit, being a sixth man, averaging an efficient 14 points. A solid player, but right now he's on the books for $22.5 million, not just this season, not just next, but in 2025. Now the next player is just objectively not a good player, and that's Tobias Bertans of the Dallas Mavericks. After being traded to the Wizards ahead of the 2020 season, Bertans came out of nowhere, becoming one of the league's most exciting three-point shooting talents. His ability to hit contested threes at volume and willingness to pull up at practically the logo put him in elite company. He averaged 15 points that season, scoring almost entirely from beyond the perimeter, shooting 42% from three on nearly 9 attempts a game. At the time, this definitely felt like a legitimate breakout, and not many were shocked to see the Wizards give him a 5-year, $80 million extension. Almost immediately, though, it became one of the worst contracts in the league. The following season, he went down to 11 points on worse efficiency. There's really nothing to his game outside of shooting, so it wasn't looking good. Then last year, in the first 34 games of the season with the Wizards, he was averaging 5 points and shooting less than 32% from three. He was then sent to the Mavericks in the Kristaps Porzingis deal, where it didn't get all that much better. He's yet to play so far this season, but he's still on contract till 2025, where he'll be earning $17 million. Today's video is sponsored by Established Titles, a fun and novel way to preserve the natural woodlands of Scotland while helping global reforestation efforts. It's a project based on a historic Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lords or ladies. Their title pack gives you at least 1 square foot of dedicated land with a unique plot number on a private estate in Scotland and an official certificate with a crest. They also plant a tree with every order and work with global charities One Tree Planet and Trees for the Future to support global reforestation efforts. You could officially include the title Lord or Lady on your credit card, plane ticket, or even dating profile. It really makes for the great last minute gift. After getting my certificate and officially becoming Lord Jimmer, he of unlimited range, I've been thinking about just going by it full time. The first 200 people that purchase a title pack using my link will effectively have a plot right next to mine, and depending on how many of you become lords or ladies, we can build our little kingdom. If this sounds interesting, Established Titles is actually running a massive Black Friday sale right now. Plus, if you use my code Jimmer, they're going to give you an additional 10% off. So go to establishedtitles.com/Jimmer and get your gifts now and help support the channel. Thank you, Established Titles, for sponsoring today's video. Then we've got another sharpshooter struggling right now, Duncan Robinson of the Miami Heat. A couple years ago, it was a great story. The former Division III college player, the former undrafted player that had become one of the top shooters in the league and was playing a huge role in Miami's run to the NBA Finals during the bubble. That year, he averaged 14 points, shooting a ridiculous 45% from three. The following season, we saw a similar level of production. He started 72 games, and after the year, the Heat gave him a 5-year, $90 million extension, the biggest contract for an undrafted player in league history. Now, there's no question, when this deal happened, there was a lot of criticism, but most were still expecting Robinson to be a big part of this team for a long time. However, last year we saw a shift. His role decreased throughout the season to the point where he was only playing 12 minutes a game in the playoffs. The Heat decided to go in favor of guys like Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin. While there was hope for a bounce-back season, the struggles have only gotten worse. He's down to just 17 minutes a game and shooting 31% from three. Not looking good, especially with him on contract till 2026, a season where he's going to make $20 million. Our next player is tough to admit, but it's none other than Chris Paul. While Chris Paul is still a very good player, and I don't disagree with the Suns doing what it takes to keep this core together, there's no question Paul is becoming one of the worst contracts in the league. Now, this is actually pretty interesting because it isn't the first time he's been considered a questionable contract. In his final year with the Rockets, they gave the Thunder 2 first-round picks, 2 pick swaps, along with Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook. A laughable trade to look back at, but it gives you an idea of the sentiment around this deal at the time. Now, since then, Paul's had a huge career comeback, but at 37 years old, it's hard to see him keeping up for too much longer. To start the season, he's averaged less than 10 points, shooting 37% from the field and 27% from 3. Has to be concerning considering 2 years from now, Chris Paul will still be earning $30 million, a season in which he's going to turn 40 years old. Interesting to think about considering we've never seen a season worth anything close to $30 million from a player in their 40s. Then we've got a contract that was even pretty questionable the day he put pen on paper, and that's Gordon Hayward. After putting up less than 18 points in 2020, the Hornets dished out a 4-year, $120 million contract. So far, he's been solid when out there, but over the last 2 years, he's played just around 40 games a season. Last year, he averaged 16 points on solid splits. Now this year, his numbers are once again solid, but we're already seeing him deal with injury. His production at $30 million is already extremely questionable. You combine that with the injuries and another year left on his deal, and it's definitely one of the worst contracts. Next, we've got another guy that's a solid player in this league, but still manages to make it on the list, and that's Tobias Harris. Now, Harris is a good example of how most of these contracts occur. During the 2019 season, the 76ers gave up a package headlined by Landry Shamet and 2 first-round picks to bring in Harris. Harris had the best year of his career. He averaged 20 points and 8 rebounds, shooting 49% from the field and 40% from 3. He was an ascending player that they just traded for. Letting him walk would look foolish, so instead, they ended up giving him a 5-year, $180 million extension, a contract that he's never quite lived up to. Right now, he's a solid starter, averaging 15 points and 6 rebounds, shooting with 46-40 splits. Pretty solid, there's no question about that, but nonetheless, one of the worst contracts, as he's currently getting paid $38 million and will get over $39 million a year from now. The next guy has been one of the more polar players when it comes to his value, and that's John Collins. While John Collins has had his time as a 20-point-a-game scorer on solid efficiency, that seems to be in the rearview mirror. He's currently the 4th option for the Hawks, averaging 12 points and 8 rebounds, shooting 50% from the field and just 25% from 3. We know he doesn't bring in any defense, so that little production from a guy that's going to get over $25 million for the next 3 seasons puts him on this list. We saw several reports about the Hawks being cautious to give Collins a big deal, and so far, it seems like those concerns were warranted. Then we've got none other than Ben Simmons. So many people try to hold on to hope coming into the season, but I think most of that is gone. I really only seen the basketball equivalent of the Yibs with 2 players, Markelle Fultz and now Ben Simmons. Simmons was one of the most hyped up high school prospects we've ever seen, getting comparisons to the likes of LeBron James. He then becomes a lock to go #1 overall. He missed his first season, but picked up where he left off, winning Rookie of the Year. He truly looked like a future top player in this league, but slowly, as more and more was demanded of him and the progression halted, the confidence was completely lost, to the point he was scared to take a shot in the playoffs 2 years ago with the 76ers. He then had the whole holdout situation and was eventually traded to the Nets. Going into the year, I thought there was a real chance for an amazing season. I thought that going to a new scenario, playing alongside 2 of the best scorers of our generation, some of his flaws would be overshadowed by playmaking and defense. Now this year, while the playmaking and defense are solid, the scoring is just non-existent. Right now he's averaging just 5 points, shooting 44% from the field, 0% from 3 as usual, and what's really causing a lack of aggression is 47% from the free throw line. You can love what he does outside of scoring, but considering how he also limits roster construction, he's definitely one of the worst contracts in the league. He's getting $35 million this season and a whopping $40 million in 2025. It was really hard to decide where to put our next player, but ultimately, I think this is the right spot, but I think there's a solid chance he can move drastically up or down from here very soon. We're talking about Michael Porter Jr. Now, what clearly made this tough is how he's playing right now, but that still doesn't change the fact that this is a scary contract for the Nuggets. Without any added context, things don't look so bad. They gave their lottery pick from 2018 a max extension, and on the first year of the deal, he's averaging 18 points, shooting with incredible 50-48 splits. But the context has to be added. The only reason the Nuggets had a chance to grab the former top-ranked high school recruit at the end of the lottery was injury. He missed almost his entire freshman season at Missouri with a back injury, one of the scariest for any athlete. He then missed his entire first season in the league. In year 2, he bounced back. He averaged an efficient 9 points a game. Then in year 3, he went up to 19 points a game. It looked like the concerns might be in the rearview mirror, so much so that the Nuggets gave him a 5-year, $172 million extension. A super aggressive move with Porter still having another year left on his rookie contract. Then last year, he looked terrible in the first 9 games of the season, and eventually came out that once again, he would need another back surgery and would miss the rest of the year. Now this year, he's back to the player we saw 2 years ago. Great to see, but with the injuries being a concern, not just for him being out there, but hindering his development, he makes this list. Porter right now is on the books for $40 million in 2027. A great young player, yes, but I can guarantee you the Nuggets wish they were a little bit more patient with his contract. Then lastly, we have easily the worst contract in the league right now, and that's Bradley Beal. The Wizards have to be up there with some of the worst run teams of the last 6 years. This team really has nothing going for them, and they gave their franchise player a 5-year, $251 million extension. This is a player that's 29 years old and hasn't surpassed 60 games played since 2019. He's coming off a season averaging 23 points, shooting 45% from the field and 30% from 3. Now this year, he's averaging 22 points and 6 assists, shooting with 52-33 splits. He's a great player, no one's denying that, but the Wizards really don't have the means to put together a competitive group around him. This contract is going to pay him $57 million in 2027. Crazy. But the real reason Bradley Beal gets to sit at the very top of the list is the fact that the Wizards let him have a no-trade clause, extremely limiting the opportunities to move him. This was a bad deal the second it was signed, and it might have only gotten worse since, but maybe the Lakers will bail them out. That's the video, guys. You guys tell me your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked the video, smash the like and sub button, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.